Syrian revolution for me is Abdul Basit Sarut, Khalid Isa, Trad and other friends that I lost. They used to live with me. We used to eat together, drink together, sleep together, cover the events together, struggle together and convey our voice to the world together. All of them are gone and I'm still alive. So the revolution is similar to the value of these friends. The spirit of the revolution is impossible to die inside my heart.
Let's get more on this now with Ahmed Bayram, who's a Middle East media advisor at the Norwegian Refugee Council. He joins us now from Beirut. Welcome to the program, Ahmed. With the current conflict in Ukraine, it's easy to forget that the war in Syria is still ongoing. The Syrian regime has managed to regain control of Syria's biggest cities, but large parts of the country are still being held by rebels and opposition forces. What's the state of the conflict right now?
Good evening and thanks for having me. The conflict is still raging on in different parts of the country, and that is evident in the number of casualties that are sustained by civilians over the past year. It is a big mistake to assume that the conflict in Syria is over. Yes, it is in many parts of the country, in probably the majority of the country. However, there are still shelling, strikes, airstrikes, and other attacks that are still happening day in, day out. So it is a conflict that is far from over. There are still people who are stuck in the cities and the villages where they are. There are attacks that are being documented, and I think the numbers were over 1,000 civilians who died or were injured over the past year. Half of them, over 600 of them, are children. So it is a big mistake to assume that the crisis in Syria, or at least the conflict, is over.
Yes, and we know 11 years of war have inflicted immense suffering on the Syrian people. Millions of them have fled the country as a result. Many of them are here in Turkey. What's the situation like for Syrian refugees who haven't been able to start new lives in their host countries?
They are languishing in limbo. They are stuck in limbo. I mean, just today I met a child who told me that, you know, he's now in the 5th grade, but that is an imaginary 5th grade because he can barely read or write. These children are stripped of their right to education with overcrowded classrooms. At the same time, their parents back home are struggling to put food on the table. People tell us day in, day out that they are struggling to get a loaf of bread on the table. The prices inside and outside of Syria and countries like Lebanon, where the crazy inflation that is unfolding there is hitting people in their meals. We are hearing about children going to bed hungry. We are hearing about parents unable to provide a simple meal for their children, and they are eating one type of food every single day. Some people are queuing up for hours to get hold of a bag of bread, subsidized bag of bread. Refugees in particular are vulnerable because they are suffering from different crises in their context. So we are talking about just today, with the snowstorm in Lebanon, for example, these people have lost a tent, have lost belongings, and now they have no money to compensate for that or to get new simple refurbishment for their furniture. So this is a situation. Imagine having to live through that for 11 years. And some people have been in displacement in refugee contexts for over 10 years now. These people are telling us that the solution is simply not going to come. They have been waiting for this for 11 years, and it's never come. And I think the international community has to wake up to the fact that this cannot drag on. Europe has made commitments to resettle Syrian refugees, and where is that commitment? Where is that promise? We have seen in Europe that when the will is there to host and desperate families, to bring children back to school in speed, that can happen. Yes. So the question is, has the international community forgotten about Syria?
And that's what I wanted to ask you about, actually, because in response to the conflict in Ukraine, we've seen European countries, I guess, open their arms to Ukrainian refugees. It was a very different story back in 2015 during the so-called Syrian refugee crisis, when European countries were putting up roadblocks, were preventing migrants and refugees from coming to their country. Countries like Germany, who were more generous, had to close their doors because of the internal backlash march towards the acceptance of Syrian refugees. How does that make you feel, seeing that stark contrast between the two situations?
I mean, let's make it clear, NRC, we are, it's on the name, we are a refugee council, and we, of course, support refugee rights wherever they are. I think rightly so, Europe is opening its arms for Ukrainians, but that definitely raises some questions, as you say, definitely raises questions about the acceptance. I mean, I think Europe has to come out and say clearly are they tired of Syrian refugees? Are they tired of their commitments that they have made year after year? We need to know that, because clearly there is political will somewhere to host those Ukrainian refugees at a particular speed, which is great and which is salutable. But what about other refugees that from Syria that have been waiting? Some of them, I have met families who had been waiting for resettlement for 3 or 4 or 5 years. They don't know where their files are. They are stuck in limbo and they don't know what is going to happen to them. They have stopped their life basically waiting for that hope, and that hope has never come. So Europe has to revisit its commitment. There will be platforms to do that in the next couple of months with the Brussels commitment, with the Brussels conference. So I think, yeah, we need a recalculation and re-evaluation of Europe's commitments. This is injustice that is being committed every day.
Okay, Ahmed Bayram from the Norwegian Refugee Council. We'll have to leave it there, but thank you so much again for joining us on the program.